light is a supernatural delight. Everybody's dancing in the moonlight, dancing in the moonlight. Everybody's free.
Good morning, everyone. Go ahead and stand to your feet. Welcome to Rancho. Let's worship together. Come on. Come on, if you know these words, let's sing it out.
When night has fallen, when fear is calming, still you're calling me. When faith is lost and my hope exhausted, you will be my strength. When my mind says I'm not good enough, God, you're enough for me, yeah. I've decided I'm not giving up. You won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and you won't let go. I feel it breaking out just like an echo. You keep repeating your promises to me. Hey! Now there's no stopping what you have started until it is complete. Yeah. My mind says I'm not good enough. God, you're enough for me. Yeah. I decided I'm not giving up. You won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is so
that compares to all you are. Come on, let's sing. In the arms of the Father, and there is love like no other. He who formed all things, He offers love to me. Come on. Where you go, we will follow. Through the dark, through the narrow, and in all we do, yes, we are bound to you, oh God. I wanna be close to you. I wanna be close to you. There's nothing in this world that compares to all you are. We are found in your presence, and seeking you in your fullness. Lord, give us eyes to see that you are all we need. 'Cause I wanna be close to you. I wanna be close to you. There's nothing in this world that compares to all you are. I wanna be close to you. I wanna be close to you. 'Cause there's nothing in this world that compares to all you are. My focus, my only focus, to worship you. My life surrender, my heart abandoned for more of you. Come on, let's sing that again. My soul devotion, my only focus, to worship you. My life surrender, my heart abandoned for more of you. Oh God, I wanna be close to you. I wanna be close to you. 'Cause there's nothing in this world that compares to all you are. 'Cause I wanna be close to you. I wanna be close to you. 'Cause there's nothing in this world that compares to all you are. My soul devotion, my only focus, to worship you. My life surrender, my heart abandoned for more of you. My soul devotion, and my only focus, to worship you. My life surrender, and my heart abandoned for more of you.
Amen, amen. Give him praise this morning. We've introduced the song, done it a couple of times here. It has an ancient Hebrew word. That word is Jireh. I don't know, Dion, you were like correcting me.
Yes, no. In the Hebrew,
Yes, no. Yes, no means yes.
in the biblical Hebrew, the word would be the two words that we call God who supplies or who provides would be Yahweh Yireh.
Yahweh Yireh.
I just nerded out a little bit on you guys. I love the Hebrew, but yeah. So and it literally means a place where God will supply whatever need it is.
That's right.
And so no matter what it is, if it's spiritual, mental, physical, financial, no matter what the need, God is literally a provider.
Yeah.
And he is our provider.
Yeah, absolutely. And the first time we see that word is Abraham going up the mountain to
Absolutely.
sacrifice his son, right? And then there's a ram caught in the thicket after the angel stops him. You ever think like maybe Abraham just got it, like he just missed it, you know? And then he's up there and the angel's like, what are you doing? No. No, but so he's going up there, and as the angel shows him, there's a ram caught in the thicket, so he doesn't have to sacrifice his own son. And he calls that place Jehovah Jireh.
Right, the place where God provided.
The place where God provided.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because in his own heart, that was not the sacrifice that he wanted to make.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But God made a way.
Yeah. And can I just, get churchy for a second?
Get it.
Listen. So this is the thing. As Abraham was headed up this way, the whole time he had no idea that his provision was headed up the other side of that mountain. Say it.
That's how they do it in the church I was growing up in, you better preach it. No, I'm just playing. I'm playing.
So let me just say this to you as we're singing this song, the very first lines, I've never been more loved than I am right now. I just want you to understand this, that even if you feel like what you're going through and whatever situation you're in, I can't do that. I can't serve, I can't help, I can't even do for myself. Just know this, God is looking at you and saying, just keep taking one step after the other. This is coming up this side as you're coming up this side. I'm meeting you. Just keep moving because he loves you so, so, so deeply. So receive this song as we sing this out together.
I'll never be more loved than I am right now. Wasn't holding you up, so there's nothing I can do to let you down. It doesn't take a trophy to make you proud. I'll never be more loved than I am right now. Oh,
Going through a storm, but I won't go down. I hear your voice carried in the rhythm of the wind to call me out. You would cross an ocean so I wouldn't drown. You've never been closer than you are right now. 'Cause you are
Jireh, you are enough. Jireh, you are enough. And I will be content in every circumstance. You are Jireh, you are enough. Forever enough, always enough, more than enough. Forever enough, always enough, always more than enough. I don't wanna forget how I feel right now on the mountaintop. I can see so clear what it's all about. So stay by my side when the sun goes down. Don't wanna forget how I feel right now. You are Jireh, you are enough. Yes, Jireh, you are enough. And I will be you are.
Jireh, you are enough.
And I will be content in every circumstance. Jireh, you are enough. Amen, amen. Give him praise this morning. Amen. You all may be seated.
All right, good morning, Rancho. How's everyone doing? It's time for What's Going On at Rancho. I've got Cherie up here looking quite festive this week. How you doing?
I am good.
Okay, we're going to come back to that in a couple minutes because we've got some business to handle first. First of all, our youth group is always over there in that corner being rowdy.
Big
Check
shout
them out.
To the youth.
You guys are dismissed whenever you'd like to go. You guys can take off. If you are new here this morning, we just want to say welcome. Thanks for being with us. It's a great time to be at church. It's a great time to be here in person. Or if you're joining us online, we want to welcome you as well. You can always text the word new to 951-379-3795, and we will text you back. You could text that today if it's your first time here. Maybe you've been coming for a couple weeks or a couple months and you just haven't done it yet. You can do that now, and we would love to be able to text you back. And then we talk about stuff a lot. There's a lot of things happening at Rancho. If people forget, they get confused, can't find it, what's the best way to find out?
info@rancho.tv. That is really a quick way to reach us. We answer that pretty much 24/7. So if you have a question or a need, even if you're online and you want to find out more information, reach out to us at info@rancho. We'll get back to you.
Yeah, and then if you would like to give online, you can give at rancho.tv/giving. And we're talking about giving a lot more than we normally do during this season, during this series, because there's a lot of need out there. There's a lot of opportunities, and we want to put a lot of things out there for you to be able to take advantage of and help make this world a better place for everyone, everywhere. So you can do all that at rancho.tv/giving. And we're just so thankful for all of you that have given for your partnership. Now, Cherie.
Well, let's say there's one more way you can give.
Oh yeah, there is, yes.
So if I get asked this sometimes, if I have dollars or a check, you can still give that. We take it. There's black boxes on the way out of the doors, and you can drop them in there.
Yep, they're right there on the way out, and they're there every week for you. So, hey, this is Veterans Week.
Yes.
And we had an awesome event this week at our school. We had just, I don't know, hundreds of elementary school kids, hundreds of parents.
Yes.
And they all came out for
Veterans Day. And it was really, really amazing. If you have not had the honor of coming to one of ours, I'd say mark your calendars for next year. But the kids, man, seeing them embrace the military as they came in. We had a Marine band who actually came and played. And the time and effort that those kids put in, I mean, you couldn't help but shed a few tears.
Yeah, totally. And we had lots of veterans there and lots of servicemen and women. And so I'm sure we have a lot of veterans and servicemen and women with us today. And so we would like to ask you to stand right now if you're able.
If you have
right
served
now. Yes,
or are
come on, stand
serving.
up. Don't be shy. We want to say
let
thank
us see you.
Yeah, we want to say thank you for your sacrifice, for your families, and for your service.
And for those of you online who served,
exactly.
we want to say thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Now, Cherie, you are dressed up with all your turkey gear. I've got to imagine you are here to promote the turkey trot.
I hope so. Otherwise, Kirk might be concerned about me. Yes, the turkey trot. It is coming. I love it. It's so much fun. It's a lot of families and community. We do have some serious trotters out there who want to win. But then we have a good portion of us who like to just have fun.
Yeah, so we took a video last year. Let's check it out.
Yeah, let's see it.
All right, that looked like a ton of fun. And one thing I noticed is that there's people walking, running, riding scooters, riding skateboards. There's dogs, there's strollers, there's wheelchairs, everything you can think of.
Everything is welcome. We want you to come and have a good time. If you want to sit and cheer on the sidelines, you know, basically this goes to support Elroy Foster Closet.
That's right.
And so it's a good cause to come and be a part of, even if you can't walk it or run it. So I just encourage everybody, they are needing underwear for children.
Yes.
It's really, really important. That's something that's really lacking in that foster world, believe it or not. So you can bring those with you. You got to register so you can get your shirt.
So you get your shirt, right?
So you can get your shirt and just come out and have a really good time with us. It's a lot of fun. I do want to tell a short still on Scott.
Yes.
Everybody saw how graceful he looked in that picture, right? You know, he's being pulled by Ryan Beaver on his skateboard. We shouted to him, "There's wires ahead." And he's like, "I got it." What that video doesn't show is him gracefully rolling across the cement. He's not here. We can talk about it.
Yeah, we edited that part out. Yeah. So we want you to come if you can. It's on a Tuesday. It's going to be a great time just to kind of come and hang out with other families and support a good cause, Elroy Foster Closet. And you can register at rancho.tv/Regar. You want to do that quick, like today or tomorrow, so we can get you a shirt. And just come out and have a good time.
Come out and visit us outside at the tables. We've got some flinging chickens. And we've got some, I know, don't hit anybody in the
I heard
eye.
somebody last service, so I'm going to try not to this service. Here we go. There you go. There's a turkey for you.
And we want to visit you at the table if you have any questions.
Yeah.
Out there as well is Operation Christmas Child.
That's right. This is the last week to grab a box and then bring it back next week. So maybe you got a box last week and you forgot. That's okay. Next Sunday is when you're going to want to drop that box off. So if you missed it last week, grab one today. If you have one, take it and fill it up, bring it back next Sunday. And Sheree, we close this time out with a very easy saying. I want everyone to say it with me. We're going to say 1, 2, 3. And that's what's going on at Rancho. Let's welcome up Carissa.
I love it. Okay, so I have, what's the word I'm looking for? A confession to make. And that is that we've been talking as a team about the turkey trot for, I don't know, weeks. And until this morning, I thought we were playing football. And I'm a little bit bummed that we're not going to be playing football. I'm just going to be honest. I don't know what that says about me, but I do know that someone got engaged.
Yeah.
And
I did.
I also am just finding
Thank
this
you.
out. David, you got engaged.
I did. My lovely fiance is helping with the youth today.
Yes.
But yes, we've known each other for a year, and I proposed on our 1-year anniversary.
When was this? Didn't happen like 10 minutes ago, did it?
A couple weeks ago.
Okay, good. Well,
Just this morning.
service. I know. I got a text and I'm like, how did I not know this? I also didn't know that the turkey trot was walking and
You can
skateboarding.
still do football at the turkey
You
trot.
don't want to put me on wheels. I have stories. It's bad. But congratulations. We're so excited for you. So welcome to Rancho this morning. Whether you're joining us in person or you're joining us online, we are so glad that you are here. If we haven't had a chance to connect yet, my name is Carissa, and we're continuing our series this morning on mercy, justice, and love. We're going to talk about what it looks like to have a heart for the hurting. And I am joined by 3 people who all have demonstrated that they have a heart for the hurting, and you all show up in pretty incredible ways on a consistent basis. We have Elaine here, who is the director at Safe Harbor Counseling Center, and Rachel, who you've heard from a lot because she's been a big part of driving this series. She is our local outreach pastor. And David, who is one of our youth leaders, who has been a part of really coming alongside our teenagers and caring for them when they are hurting and in need, and who also serves as one of the teachers at our school. So I'm excited for you to get to hear from some of their experience today, because here's what I know. Haven't been around Rancho for very long. I'm just a couple of months old on the team. But what is really apparent to me about all of you is that you already have a heart for the hurting. That's not something that we need to try to convince you of today. You already know how important people are to God. We're a diverse community of friends advancing the cause of Christ through mercy and justice and love, and you're already doing that in beautiful ways. What I want us to talk a little bit about today is how sometimes we experience some internal resistance when we're faced with someone else's pain or grief or disappointment. And grief can look like lots of different things. It's not always the loss of someone we love. Sometimes it's the death of a dream or the death of a relationship or, even the death of a vocation. But sometimes when we're faced with it, we experience this internal resistance. And I know we have, and I would imagine that you maybe have as well. And so can we start there today? What does that internal resistance look like in your life?
For me, I know it's fear at times. Sometimes it's scary, if somebody's in some real grief or hurting really badly. There's a little bit of fear, what do I say? What do I do?
Yeah.
And so, for me, it's kind of that fear in the back of my head that might make me not acknowledge or even run the other way sometimes, because it's scary.
Or I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Yeah,
I don't want to make it worse.
Right. I have a servant's heart, and I want to help. Like you said, I want to help, but it can be, well, where do I help? How do I help? Well, for me, it's been easier with the people that I build relationships with because I'm a youth leader, so I've known a lot of my high schoolers for years and years. And as a teacher, I get to have students over and over. So I get to know their hurts, I get to know their family lives, I get to know what they struggle with. And it builds that community because, Jesus, he lived with people. He had meals with them. He had meals with outcasts. And he wouldn't fix their problems right away all the time. He would build that relationship and build that camaraderie and slowly work that way.
Kind of piggyback on what you were saying, I do. I think we have this inclination to want to help people and, take away the sadness and to maybe encourage them or throw platitudes at them, maybe even spiritual ones that kind of can feel like spiritual shaming even. And I think that, so it makes us hesitate. It makes us hesitate to know what to do or say. Even professional counselors don't always know what to do or what to say.
Yeah.
But what a lot of studies have shown on like intense grief or deep loss is that a lot of times what's most important is just to provide acknowledgement in the beginning, is just to show up, and you don't have to know what to say. You don't have to be worried about making it worse. It's just showing up with someone and saying, this must be so hard, what you're going through. I can't believe you're going through this. Sitting in that darkness with them, giving them permission to actually have the pain, have the suffering.
Yeah, I love that because I think, we live in this world and we always want to be happy, and we want joy and we want everybody around us to be happy. And sometimes we have a hard time just kind of sitting in our pain and in our grief. And I do believe that will cause problems later on. I'm sure you can speak into that later on down the road, when we don't deal with these things or we aren't acknowledging this in other people. Sometimes we even try to rush them past their grief, by saying it's okay or some time has gone by, you should be better maybe, where it looks different for every person. So I know in my life, just an acknowledgement, like I understand, I'm so sorry you're hurting, just that acknowledgement that it's there, and that I'm here for you, even without words, just a presence is so much.
Exactly. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to have the exact same experience, especially with our younger kiddos, this is the first time often that they are experiencing something so monumental, something so much bearing on their soul. Like as adults or, grown-ups, we get to experience that more and more, but then our kiddos, this is their first time. And just being there for these people and saying, you can reveal this to me, or you can bring this that was in the shadows of your soul into the light. That first step can be a change that they need to start down that path and send them on.
Yeah, and just, to me, it's just showing up, whether it's just that text to say, I know you're going through something rough, or like, how are you doing today? If you even think about it, Jesus wept with people. Like he really felt emotion with them. And I don't know, that just always strikes me. I mean, he had the power to fix everything, but he just wept with people and gave them the permission to feel those emotions give us depth.
They do.
Right?
They do. I know I've been guilty of trying to rush people through uncomfortable emotions to get to the joy. And I've gotten better about it over the years. And it's just been recently that I discovered why I was so quick to try to get people past it and into this happy space. And what I read recently is that when we have our own unresolved pain, unresolved grief and disappointment that we, have kind of locked away and put off to the side, oftentimes because that's what we needed to do to survive, quite frankly. But then when we have that, and then we sit down across from someone who's experiencing pain and grief and loss, even though their story is different from ours, we're wired to experience and feel their emotion. And so when we have that unprocessed stuff, and then we're sitting across from someone, what's often happening is it's picking at that scab. And I then begin to feel my own uncomfortable stuff that I really don't want to deal with or haven't known how to deal with. And so then I'm trying to rush and fix. And what I've discovered is the more I've allowed my own disappointment to be processed in safe places, and the more I've allowed the work and the healing to happen, the more I'm able to sit with people. And it's been a really tangible thing that I've seen in my own, story. So, we have access today to more pain and disappointment and hurt than we ever have before, than any other generation. I mean, all you have to do is open up your phone, an app, turn on the television, and it's story after story after story of real pain. And the last couple of years, I think, have been even more tremendous. And, there's something called compassion fatigue that I think is important for us to talk through as we talk about a heart for the hurting. And so, Elaine, talk to us about what is compassion fatigue?
Right, so compassion fatigue is kind of more than just like burnout or being overwhelmed. Compassion fatigue is when you kind of just emotionally take on the residue of other people's pain or trauma. So a lot of pastors, counselors, teachers, nurses, like anyone in helping professions, but it's also just all of us, right? Like if you are taking care of children on a day-to-day basis, or an elderly parent, or even if you just have a lot going on that you're helping with in your life, sometimes you can have actual fatigue. And so we do recommend the best way to combat that is to make sure that you are taking care of yourself as well, filling your cup, whether it's spending time with friends or doing your exercise, or just even setting those boundaries. And, Christ himself was that example. And you're going to talk about that later today. He took time to care for himself so that he could give his best to others.
Yeah.
I think that's so important, because I'm an empath on top of it. And if you don't know what that means, it's a highly sensitive person. And so I will actually, like Elaine was describing, I will feel myself the pain of other people. And there's some days where I might not have done any physical activity at all, but by the end of the day, I'm done. I am wiped out. In those times away, that, boundaries and balancing is so important. For me, it's getting in my garden, and just spending the time in there with the plants and the dirt and the seed. And it's very therapeutic for me. And it just kind of it gives me a rest, a nice rest from everything going on.
Oh yeah, I'm such an empathetic?
Yeah.
I have a lot of empathy for people myself. And I get to, it's a privilege. Like, for those of you who have talked to or had those deep personal conversations with someone, you know that it's an honor to be that person for them to open up to. And so I take that completely with honor, and I place that at the level it's supposed to be. So I do feel that a little bit more. And especially the last couple of years, like you said, it's been more and more and more. Different depression, with divorce, with loss, with so much that our young people and everyone else is facing. It's hard to combat it. And for me, it's been acknowledging and saying, I don't have to have all the answers.
Yeah.
I don't have to be the only person in this conversation. I was a homeschooler, so I didn't have the same route as a lot of my students, but I still learned how to get over my own, or get through a lot of my own struggles, because I reached out to others. I sought the help of others. And I can help these people by listening, by taking them as far as I can and walking with them, but then I can call them the big guns, go to someone like Elaine, or go to God, because it's that supernatural aspect that he only can do that will help take them the rest of the way.
I think we forget sometimes too that, it is sometimes just as simple as showing up or showing love. And love is healing. We forget that sometimes, that love is healing. And it's not the immediate miracle right before our eyes, but loving someone through a process or through years sometimes is very healing to the person and to yourself. It really is.
to letting them know they're seen.
Oh, that's what we all want.
Right.
We want to be seen and understood and valued. And the three of you do that so incredibly well. Thank you for joining me. Would you give them a hand this morning? Really, really good stuff. You know, when I think of some of my own resistance to those around me who were hurting in deep ways, it really wasn't that long ago that this was really difficult for me to do. I remember when I first transitioned from being a youth pastor to ministering and working with adults, all of a sudden I was put on the pastoral care rotation. And what would happen is people would call into the church and they'd have a need, or they'd need to talk to a pastor, or they would just need counsel or prayer. And if I was pastor of the week that week, they got me. And that wasn't a great thing in the beginning. I can remember feeling a lot of anxiety when I would see those appointments pop up on my calendar. And it's for a lot of the reasons that you just heard us talk about. I never knew what I was walking into. I never knew what the other person was going to share with me. And there's something about the title of pastor that we get to carry some of the greatest parts of people's lives with them, and we also get to carry some of the most painful parts of life with people. And for the first couple of years that I was privileged to be in that space, I didn't look forward to it. I had anxiety. I was afraid because I didn't want to say the wrong thing, and I didn't know how to help, and I felt this pressure to try to fix and solve. And quite frankly, I am still not qualified to fix and solve all of the problems. What happened, though, was I discovered along the way that when we're in pain, when we're hurting, the thing that we really need the most is someone who will listen, someone who will hold this space with us without judging, without rushing to fix things. That if you look at the neuroscience, there's actually healing and integration that takes place in our brain when someone listens to us without trying to fix. When they allow us to just be who we are in the moment, and they accept us and love us in that space. And so as I began to trust that that could be enough, just that listening and asking questions and some of the things that Elaine talked about, praying with them and for them, and then if necessary, referring them out to other additional resources, I began to see that as more of just a sacred space. And so here's the thing today. The number one thing that I want you to walk out of here with is that God has a heart for the hurting, and that includes you. When we think about God having a heart for the hurting, we often think about the people in our life that are suffering, the people in our life that have experienced loss. We think about all of those in our community and around the world who are experiencing hurt and suffering. But friend, I'm here to tell you today that God has a heart for you, for your sorrow, for your pain, for your grief, for your disappointment. And that really, when we think about having a heart for the hurting, it has to start here. So we're going to look at the life and the ministry of Jesus, because there are some things that I think we can learn from him as we consider what it looks like to have a heart for the hurting. And the first one is that it's necessary to attend to our own needs. We see this in the life and ministry of Jesus. He came and he became human with all of the limitations that come along with that. The limitations of time, the limitations of just being physically and emotionally and mentally exhausted. And so what we see is Jesus running from crowds at times because he was desperate for time alone with God, desperate to be in prayer. We see him seeking out community, to be with his innermost group of people that he could truly just let his guard down with and ask for care and ask for support. We see him taking naps because he was physically exhausted. We see Jesus attending to his own needs. And I know that there are some of you here today who just naturally are so focused on the people around you that you often ignore your own needs. And then when you do finally have to pay attention, sometimes that comes along with some guilt. And I want you to know today that your needs matter. They matter to God. And that when we're thinking about having a heart for the hurting, it starts with us. for caring for and inviting others to care for our needs. And then it's out of the overflow of all of that that we can have a heart for those around us, that we can have a heart for their needs, that we can give generously our time and our resources. But I want you to know first and foremost that God has a heart for you, for your needs, for your hurting, for your pain. The second thing that we see is that prayer is vital to discerning our role in the story. Jesus lived this life of prayer, and it doesn't always look the same. The way that you pray is going to be different than the way I pray and the way that your neighbor prays. But if we think of prayer as this awareness of God in action around us and through us, you know, Paul writes that we live and move and have our being in God. And if we think of prayer as drawing our awareness and our attention to the presence, to the love, to the action of God, and then from there discerning with God, what's mine in this? This is where some healthy boundaries can come in. With this situation, with this person, with this pain, with this problem, what is mine? How am I called and invited to partner in this process? What's theirs? What's theirs to carry in this? What's their responsibility? And then what's God's? Because sometimes you're going to come into contact with people who are hurting and who are wounded and who are carrying things, and it is above your pay grade, just like it is above my pay grade, and we need to trust with them that God is at work in their life. What's mine? What's theirs? What's God's? And I think we see Jesus do this. You know, we have 3 years of his life and ministry recorded in the Gospels. But have you ever considered what Jesus must have said no to? How many times people must have asked him for his time, for his resources, for his healing, and he wasn't able to accommodate because he chose to become a human with all of the limitations that go along with that? We see a few glimpses in the Gospels of Jesus saying no, of running away from the crowds and different things like that, but I think it happened a lot. We have 3 years, and he was confined by time and hunger and sleep and exhaustion, just like you and I are. And I think we see Jesus discerning with God what it looks like to be a part of someone's story. And then the third thing that I think we see is that our presence matters. That we are called to listen, to feel with the other person, and that we're not being asked to try to fix their thinking or their emotions or their actions, that this idea of a ministry of presence is a gift, and sometimes that is simply enough. I want to share a story with you today that you're probably familiar with. It's when Jesus was away with the disciples and they were ministering and healing and doing what Jesus did so well while he lived here. And all of a sudden they received word from Mary and Martha that their brother Lazarus was sick. Now these are 3 dear friends to Jesus. And I think Mary and Martha expected that when Lazarus became sick, and they must have been very concerned to send word to Jesus, I think they fully expected that Jesus would stop whatever he was doing and come and heal Lazarus. In fact, they knew that he could because they had witnessed Jesus do it for others. But what we see is that Jesus receives word that Lazarus is sick, and he continues a couple more days with the work that he was doing. And then Jesus eventually makes his way back to where Mary and Martha were, and what happened is Lazarus is already dead. Martha comes out to meet Jesus on the road. And what we see is Jesus meets her uniquely in her grief. See, we don't all need the same thing when we're in pain and when we're hurting. And Jesus has a conversation with her. He engages with her in her rational thinking of the moment. She's not really experiencing emotion in this moment. If you read through the story, it's really in her thinking. And then Martha runs back home to where Mary is, and Mary's grieving with their friends and family. And she whispers in Mary's ear, and she says, "Mary, Jesus is here." And that's where I want to pick up the story with you. We're in John chapter 11, verse 32, where it says, Mary came to where Jesus was waiting, and she fell at his feet, saying, Master, if only you had been here, my brother, he wouldn't have died. And when Jesus saw her sobbing and the Jews with her sobbing, a deep anger welled up within him. And he said, where did you put him? Master, come and see, they said. And now Jesus wept. And the Jews said, look how deeply he loved them. Sometimes when we're reading the scripture, it's important to notice what we're reading. I think we learn from that. It's also important to notice sometimes what's missing and what's not there. The first thing that I do notice is that Jesus interacts with Mary and Martha differently. He meets them uniquely where they are in their pain. And we all grieve differently. And so he customized his approach. That was part of how he loved them in that moment. He allowed them to grieve the way that they were grieving. What he didn't do that I find interesting is that he didn't bypass their grief, which is something that I honestly, quite frankly, would like to do sometimes. I want to just jump right to the solution. I want to solve the problem. I don't have the power to do that most of the time, but Jesus absolutely had the power to just jump right to fixing the problem, solving it. And I imagine he could have bypassed Mary and Martha and gone straight to the tomb and raised Lazarus from the dead. And then showed up at the house, surprise. But that's not what he did. He entered into their grief and their loss and their disappointment with them. He allowed himself to grieve with them. When the scripture uses the word anger there, that is one of the best translations I've seen for the original language. Usually it says that he was deeply troubled and distressed, which is good, but really what Jesus experienced was anger. He didn't try to justify his actions. He didn't try to explain God. I feel the need to do this sometimes with people. I feel the need to do this in my own life. God, why didn't you? You could have. How could this have happened? Jesus didn't try to give answers, even though I know he has them. He was just with them in their disappointment. Your presence matters. It matters to those that God is inviting you to just be with them when they're hurting. And then the last thing we see is that where there are tangible needs, practical action communicates care and love. Once you have tended to your own needs and you're giving and serving out of an overflow and you've discerned with God what is mine, what is theirs, what is yours, you've been present with them if that's possible, then you can begin to ask yourself, is there something practical that I can do? Can I write a letter? Can I send flowers? Can I bring a meal? Can I watch their kids? Can I put up their Christmas tree? Do I need to take them to a doctor's appointment? What are the practical ways that we can come alongside? One of the things I love about Rancho is that we have an opportunity to meet a practical need almost every week. It's amazing. We can't meet them all. We're not asked to meet them all. But is there one in your life, in your circle of influence, that maybe you are being invited to meet? Because that's one of the ways that we have a heart for the hurting. I want to share a story with you as we wrap this up that I think just captures this so well. This summer, my husband's grandmother read this book. It's an autobiography. Autobiography means he wrote it. It's a biography because somebody else wrote it. It was a biography of the life and ministry of Eugene Peterson. And he is responsible for the Message translation of the Bible. And if you heard me speak, you will maybe pick up on the fact that I use that translation more often than the others because I think Eugene just had such a beautiful way of capturing the scriptures and the heart of God. He lived this faithful life. So Grandma read it, gave it to my mother-in-law. She read it, gave it to me. I read it and was so incredibly inspired. I decided I wasn't giving it back to them. And then we were all together for a family gathering, and they subtly made it clear that they wanted their copy back. And so I ordered my own copy. That's how much his story spoke to me. You see, when Eugene was in college, what had happened was about year 2, he started to experience some of this internal heaviness of his own. It doesn't use the word depression, but that's what it sounds like he was experiencing. Just this dark night of the soul, this heaviness. And what was especially difficult for Eugene was that he couldn't figure out why he was experiencing it. He couldn't point to a situation, he couldn't point to a circumstance, he couldn't point to something that happened that had caused him to just feel this sense of despair. And my guess is that many of you understand what that's like. That sometimes we just feel deep sorrow and disappointment, and we can't point to what has caused it, which means we can't point to what to do to fix it. So Eugene is experiencing this, and he comes home for the summer and says to his mom, I need some help. I need to talk to somebody. I don't know what's wrong with me. And so she sends him to the pastor. And so Eugene goes and he sits down with the pastor, and the pastor preaches at him and begins to warn Eugene about all of the things that a 20-something-year-old young man in college should really not be doing. But that wasn't what Eugene needed in that moment. He didn't need to be preached at. He didn't need to be warned of the things that he might have been doing wrong, but he wasn't actually doing wrong. But even if he was doing them wrong, it still wouldn't have been helpful. So Eugene went home, and he still wasn't feeling better. So he decided to try again. He goes back to the pastor. The pastor preaches at him again. Same deal, same topic, same stuff. And Eugene is thinking in his head, this is like, yeah, I hear you, but this isn't the deal. Thankfully, Eugene didn't give up. He tried again, went home, talked to his mom. That didn't help. Pastor didn't help. So what do I do? And she said, you know what? Talk to Brother Ned. Brother Ned was a spiritual giant in the church. He knew the scriptures backwards and forwards, prayer warrior, someone that people respected and looked up to and had been leading for a long time. And so Eugene reaches out to Brother Ned. He says, Brother Ned, can we meet? And they began to meet regularly over the course of several weeks. And Eugene got taught. They went through a book of the Bible together in the New Testament. And what Eugene wrote in one of his journals was it was the most boring time he had spent in the scriptures ever in his life. And Eugene loved the scriptures. But that wasn't what he needed. He didn't need to be taught. He didn't need answers. And so Eugene was feeling pretty hopeless at this point. He didn't know what to do, but he knew he was still feeling this deep sense of despair. And one of his friends suggested that he reach out to and meet with a man in the church named Reuben. Now, this surprised Eugene because Reuben was this big, burly, mean-looking guy. Reuben never smiled, never prayed out loud. What Reuben was good at is he was good at fixing things. If something needed to be fixed in the community or fixed in the church, they called Reuben, and he showed up, and he knew how to use his hands and the tools to fix things. That's what he was good at. And so Eugene writes in one of his journals that he was afraid to meet with this mean Reuben, this intimidating Reuben, and reveal the tender places of his heart. And I think that gives us a picture of how desperate Eugene must have been in this moment to just get some help and some support and some care. And I want to read to you what Eugene writes about his experience with Reuben. He says, for the remaining weeks of the summer, we met twice a week. No pious language, no heavy theology. He just talked to me. He treated me like a person. And when I got back to school, I was different. We talked about everyday stuff, tools, work, landscape, school. And that had such a massive impact. Reuben simply listened and treated Eugene with dignity. Reuben never viewed Eugene as an opportunity for ministry, but he welcomed him with a stance of wonderment. Pastor didn't help. The spiritual giant didn't help. It was Reuben that changed Eugene's life. In fact, years later, the book tells us, several chapters down the road, that Eugene calls Reuben up on the phone after years and years and says, Reuben, I don't know if you know this, but that time we spent together that summer, it changed my life. And Eugene could hear Reuben crying over the phone because Reuben said, Eugene, no one has ever said that to me before. And so as you and I consider today, what does it look like to have a heart for the hurting? I want us to remember Reuben. Because you and I, no matter our training, our life experience, our knowledge, we can be a Reuben to someone. And so Evan and the team are going to come out, and as they do, they're going to lead us in another song, and I want you to consider using this time to discern with God what it looks like for you to have a heart for the hurting. Does that need to start with you? Are there some needs in your life that need care and attention and concern? Does that look like being present with people in your life and holding space with them? Does that look like meeting very practical needs in their life? Maybe consider asking God today as we sing together, what does it look like for you to be a Reuben to someone this week? And maybe that means being that for yourself and inviting another Reuben to come into your life and to help you navigate some of your own hurts. And maybe that means showing up as Reuben. But what I know is when we create space for God to speak, he helps us to discern, that he speaks into the deep places of our heart. And so I want to invite you to stand because we're going to sing this together. And Evan, here's the thing. Am I the only one that uses worship time as prayer time, or does that make me kind of weird?
No. I pray the most when I'm singing. Please, God, don't let me forget the lyrics, and don't. So,
well, that's one way of praying.
No, yeah. No, I always think of every song as it's what I want to say to God, what I want to say about God. So every kind of song to me is that prayer, is that you're pouring everything out. So, and this song is that same thing. It's almost like a declaration of saying, like, this is who you are, and this is who I believe you to be. So.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's enjoy some time together.
There's a way back home for the wandering soul. There's a peaceful calm for the restless one. And if you're so far gone, you can't see the shore, just lift your eyes, look to the Lord. 'Cause he's a walking on the water. He'll calm your agency. No, you don't have to look no farther. He's the hope that you need. Oh, where your sails are torn and tattered, and the storm just won't cease. Take hold of the hand of the Savior. He's the anchor of peace. Oh, he's the anchor of peace. I was breaking down at the end of my road when the sweetest sound silenced the noise. Oh, he's the Prince of Peace. The waves don't hear his voice. Just lift your eyes and look to the Lord. Oh, he's walking on the water. He'll calm your agencies. No, you of peace pours through. Fall into the hopeless flow. Oh, the wreckage of the fall, there was no way. Then I saw the lighthouse. I was singing when I felt your hand. You put my feet back on the dry land. When I was so far, love made a way out. Oh, and thank God for the lighthouse. Storm just won't cease. Take hold of the hand of the Savior. He's the anchor of peace. Oh, he's the anchor of peace. Yeah. Walking on the water, you calm your raging seas. No, you don't have to look no farther. He's the hope that you need.
Oh, thank you guys so much for closing our service with that song. You know, what a great Sunday to be together. And I know that there's a lot of us that are experiencing hurt and pain and loss, and it's just a lot of that in life. Just want to invite you to come back. Come back every week, make friends. We are here for one another. When that song says, you know, that God is our anchor of peace, He is. And for some people, they've experienced that one-on-one with God. But most people I talk to, they experience it like this, one to another. So come back every week. Put yourself out there, make some friends. You could do that today by sticking around. We got the food truck out there. You can get something to eat and maybe make a new friend, hang out. You can also do that by maybe over the next couple weeks as we get into the holidays. Think of some families that maybe you haven't seen in a while. Maybe it's been a year, maybe it's been a longer, and invite them back to church. We're experiencing community here. We're here for one another, so invite them to be a part of that. You guys have a great week. We'll be back next week with another week of mercy, justice, and love. Have a wonderful week. Thanks for being with us. Take care.
There's a man working in a field. He sees the rain and it's burning. But he says it can't be real. Oh, and he sees the color of the fields turning. Far away, man too busy getting rich to care. Close their eyes, let it all out into the air, hoping nobody else would care. Look out any window, look out any open door, look out any window, see what's going on here around you. There's a man working on a boat, pouring lines from the water, just try